All right. Greetings. Welcome back. Welcome all to Dorsey's Resource. First, as usual, before we get started, this video is going to be for informational, entertainment, and educational purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. The information contained herein is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged that you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for anyone's misuse of the information. Keep in mind, everyone is responsible for their own commercial affairs. All rights are reserved. Now, I want to get into the topic of the video real quick. It's something along the lines. I titled this video New Quantum Financial System, ISO Crypto Coins, GCR Reset. And I had like a question mark, something like that. I had a long title, but I wanted to discuss this is related to the GCR reset. Many are wondering what's been going on. Those for years ago that have been keeping up with the dinars, the Vietnamese dong, the foreign currency revaluation, and are skeptical. And you have every right to be. A lot of things have changed throughout the years, and I plan on discussing some of my feedback, some information that I got recently from one of my private sources. Actually, a couple of my private sources. My other source I hadn't spoken with in a while. I don't speak to that often, but they have been a blessing with information they've shared throughout the years. Both my sources, by the way, and one in particular. When you listen to different conference calls that are related to the dinar or the global currency reset, I know one, people were excited to hear the banking stories. We've heard many of those type of stories throughout the years, but it had been quite some time that we heard like a story like that was very compelling. For those out there that know or familiar with, I think that's Lynn's channel. That was shared with me. I didn't know who she was originally. Big shout out to the subscriber that shared that information with me. But I got some information in myself recently from speaking to one of my sources I haven't spoken to with in a while, and they were telling me allegedly as of the April 25th of this month, and my other source was saying there's some important dates next month as well. But my one source was saying the April 25th of this month, all of the banks are supposed to be uh, basically QFS compliant, or along the lines, if you guys remember, Basel 3 compliant, meaning dealing with asset backs. I guess they have to have assets behind the scenes, even though they're moving to like a digital ledger system. I just heard recently that the Treasury just adopted Ripple XRP. Something there's some type of partnership or something going on behind the scenes. And I remember hearing a year or two ago that when you go to exchange dinars, some according to some conference calls, allegedly that you would receive instead of dinars, you will receive XRP instead. To kind of give you all an idea, because they're moving away from the fiat, the old fiat system. One of my sources was telling me is referred to as the old legacy system. The legacy system is going to still be in place for a while, but what's happening is that the old legacy system is being phased out. According to one of my sources, was sharing with me, as the new system is being brought in, the old legacy system, as it's referred to as by people behind the curtain or those in the know, that that system is going to be around for a while. As you know, Swift, of course, I forget what the acronym stands for, but it's the way that banks transact and do business. There's things happening behind the scenes that are changing, and some even suspect this allegedly has to do with strange things happening to people's accounts, other than separately from the scam stuff. That's totally separate. We won't harp on that. But I've heard rumors, I can't neither confirm nor deny this, that allegedly some sources out there are saying that with people having mysteriously funds that are missing from an account. It could be potentially. I don't have any, so treat this as, hearsay, or but it could add help for those that are trying to figure out some of the things that are going on. A video someone sent that they weren't refunded some funds, and that could be an excuse. Someone was saying that the bank is moving their funds over to the new QFS system, and the old legacy system, if there's a bank holiday, meaning where you can't get your funds out, or there's capital controls where they impose a limit on the ATM machines where you can only take out $300 or $400 at a time. That's form what's referred to as bank holiday or capital controls, which has happened in other countries, allegedly Cyprus, Greece, places like that. Something happened in the past. I'm not the foremost authority on what happened some years ago, but for those that have been keeping up throughout the years with these different banking crises and things, are aware of that, and have heard of a bank holiday. And it's not what you think in terms of, normally people associate holiday with a good time, a time off that people can enjoy, celebrate. But this is something different in terms of banking language or banking law. This is not good in terms for those in a particular country or population that's going through a banking crisis that has to deal with a bank holiday, and then they are penalized, or they penalize the customers, are hit with capital controls. That deals with like where you can only withdraw so much out of ATM machine, where instead of the usual amount, $400 or $500 or whatever, there could be limits as low as 100, 200, even $50 at a time, as a currency fiat system is being phased out, or going as this new system is being brought in. That's just to kind of give you all an idea. But they're moving over to a digital currency system, and it has to be asset backed. And one of my sources was telling me that if the banks are not Basel III, because they had a certain time period, of time where they have to be QFS compliant. So I'm going to say not just asset backed, because I thought they went through that years ago with the HCL, the hydrocarbon law, Basel III compliance. But I hear certain smaller banks, or banks said they weren't ready yet. But I hear now's the time. By April 25th of this month, they all have to be compliant and ready. And if they are not compliant, one of my sources, the one I hadn't spoke with in a while, was emphasizing that they could go bankrupt, because they would be in violation of the new rules imposed, and they could be bought up or absorbed by another bank, a bigger bank. They could be taken over by a much larger bank. And those type of things happen during bank holiday or capital controls, if things get really bad. Many of the smaller banking institutions fall up under the Federal Reserve. And I remember I was speaking with a banker one time. I was going to a particular branch, and I brought in a folder of like another rival bank. And I said, why are you guys acting like this is sports? Like you guys are rival teams or whatever. I said, you all are all under the Federal Reserve banking system. And the teller at the time, she knew what I was talking about, this particular teller, and she completely changed. She was like, yeah, you are right. I said, it's kind of silly to me. You all are under the Federal Reserve Bank. And I said this even with the credit unions. For example, Michigan First Credit Union is under the Federal Reserve Bank, just like JP Morgan, Chase Manhattan, the retail side at a lower level, Bank of America, Citizens Bank, all these lower level institutions, Fifth Third, that are still around, Navy Federal, so many lists to name. Some banks have been bought out, like years ago. Wachovia, I think they got bought out by Wells Fargo. You guys remember Wachovia Bank? And then some banks are like under international banks under HSBC, dealing with overseas, like Citizens Bank has connections to overseas. But over here for the American branches, they all fall up under the Federal Reserve, just like the credit unions. And I called Michigan First Credit Union many years ago. I used to bank with them. Actually, I don't bank with them anymore, but many years ago I did. And one time I was curious when I was learning about this information, for the first time many years ago. I called them on the phone, and the teller confirmed with me. She said, yes, we are indeed members under the Federal Reserve, even though they operate differently, because they're a credit union. And like I said, I'm not an expert what the differences are with the other type of institutions. Some people say you get better loans and stuff like that with the credit union versus the other institutions. But keep in mind, sometimes the formulas may change. The principle stays the same. The formulas may change, but the principle stays the same. What I mean are credit unions, for example, you had to know someone, or you had to have certain stipulations to be a member. And they would have some of the first, what I know of years ago, I don't know if they started this, where they would have the joint bank accounts where you could have your savings account and your checking account kind of combined into like one account, similar to a brokerage account. By the way, I remember that, where they would combine it. Then this, I guess, became popular, where other banks said, we're going to adopt this to attract more customers. But keep in mind, they all fall up under the Federal Reserve Bank. And if you look up, you have an understanding how the IMF works, the International Monetary Fund, and some of these entities and how they're related. My other source also informed me that dealing with the cryptocurrencies, remember there's going to be, just to give you guys a heads up, I talked about this down the road because some of my subscribers, I understand, are into cryptos. And like, once again, I want to say I'm still learning. Some people think I'm an expert, and I want to say I'm not an expert. I was asked by someone, could I show them? And I said, I don't feel worthy yet. There's a lot of things to unpack. I don't, really at this point in time, I could do this with someone I prefer privately, like a family member or close friend. I could share some of this type of information with how I started investing, but there's a lot of layers to unpack. But for those that are involved in cryptos, and understand, I'm not talking about pyramid sites and stuff like that, like MLM sites. There's a lot of different sites out there, and I'm not talking about stuff related to scam artists. But keep in mind, cryptos, you can just buy and hold them. They're digital assets, just no different than stocks. Just like you hold stocks, it used to be a point in time years ago where you had the physical paper, or like a representation on it on like bond paper. I have an example of this. Friend of mine picked up for me as like a souvenir at a coin shop that he was going to at the time. I won't say which one or where at was giving these type of stock certificates out, but it showed years ago how they transacted business. And the one I have it around my place somewhere. I did discover it not too long ago. It had General Motors on there, and it had the name. It looked like it was someone years ago, and it appeared as though they had their social security number on there. And on the back of the instrument, it was endorsed. It had something that looked like a medallion signature stamp, or like a pay to the order of. So I know it was a form of a registered security instrument. This is where they used to do things manually years ago. But nowadays, because of technology, and we're all the way in the year 2024, all the way in the future. We're talking about ages ago. They transacted things a lot differently, and things changed. I was informed. I didn't know this originally. Over 10 years ago, there was something in the making, and there's been updates since. And with the powers that be plan on doing, what was shared with me privately, is eventually there's a lot of crypto coins. Some may already know this from a different perspective. I don't know how they were already aware, but I feared something like this. They were up to something, because I knew they were up to something. I just didn't understand it. When one of my sources told me they plan on getting rid of a whole lot of coins, and when the new system totally comes in, that's when you're going to see the ISO coins. They're being manipulated, suppressed on purpose to allow institutional investors to buy them up cheap, or even banks, because behind the scenes, I knew this already. This is coming from a YouTube channel I follow. Actually, Snippy's channel was one of them that reported that behind the scenes, JP Morgan, I knew years ago, was buying silver and gold behind the scenes. And they also were buying cryptocurrency, because I remember the CEO, Jamie Dimon, there was a story that came out where his daughter had picked up some cryptocurrency or Bitcoin at the time, and he poo-pooed it. Then it came out in the news. He turned around a week later and went and purchased some himself. So it was like an overlay for the underlay. because they don't want sometimes this is one of the strategies where the rich get richer and they want the poor to get to stay poor. And there's a thing going on where the reason the ISO coins where they're not allowing XRP, because I was wondering, I watched XRP in the last bull cycle that we were in, and I said XRP is supposed to be way more than what it's at. I said, why is it? It had its pump last year when they won the lawsuit and everything. A lot of people, we thought it was going to go higher, but they were due for a pump. Like, they should be with the price of at least where render is at like $9 or $10. I'm like, why are they staying below $1? Because the last bull run, which wasn't even as big as, or is not going to even be as big as this particular bull run, or hasn't when we reached this all-time high, stayed below $1. I mean, it went up. So one of my sources was telling me that basically the IMF, that stands for International Monetary Fund, and they have a connection, direct connection to the U.S. Treasury. They're behind suppressing the price, just like for years I had been hearing that either the U.S. Treasury or the IMF was the reason the dinar was being held up, that it was real. And we had private sources, bankers and stuff that had actually looked into it. We also throughout the years found out that information trickled down the line from all the way down to branch managers to even some tellers, because we know that the Vietnamese dong was joined at the hip. If you knew about the dinar, those two were basically parallel with one another. And I've told you guys the story how I saw the teller flipping through the pages when I asked about it for the first time many years ago, and her supervisor or superior boss came over and ushered the book away from her and then quickly told me we don't deal with it. But I had already saw the evidence. When she was flipping through the pages, I could see through the bulletproof glass, the clear glass. I saw the images in there, and she was looking curious at the time. The teller, like, she didn't even know. That I was informed many years later that they were told they weren't supposed to do that anymore. But in some instances, it appears certain bankers are under non-disclosure agreements, so they still may lie, legally lie, and say we don't deal with it or we don't know about it, unless, like you mentioned, certain things where you just back them into a corner and you get them to basically spill the beans where they don't have a choice. Where it sounds like this guy that tells this banking testimony, he was pretty smart and hit him with some pretty tough questions. So they were, indirectly, it was very difficult for them to not tell the truth, for them to be honest. But I heard that they weren't supposed to be doing that anymore, and that, but we're going through a period where things are still not public. There's still things happening behind the curtain. I did hear a lot of bankers were under non-disclosure agreements allegedly, and that some of the sources that were talking to different people that did conference calls, it was more difficult for them to obtain information. And I want to let you all know the same thing has happened on my end. Remember that related to that event that I attended last year, my sources that were in connection to that, more sources I had dwindled down. It really wasn't that much information basically leaking out or coming out. They were tight-lipped, and then one of my sources basically they just went dark altogether, and they don't even really reach out to me. I had to really contact them, by the way, and try to see, they don't mention anything at all. And I guess many people there in fear, they don't want to be jeopardized, allegedly. But it's kind of hard to piece things together. I know it seems difficult because people say, where can you gather the evidence at? But I will tell you firsthand from my personal experience, I can't force people to believe me. But when I was active with that particular group, I did decide not to go back. I did have to sign, or was kind of, we were compelled to at the time. But however, remember I explained how they violated the terms of the non-disclosure agreement. And I found out more recently, anytime any type of fraud is committed, because my package, it was promised that it was supposed to be returned at the time, according to the administrator, and it was never returned as he promised at the time verbally. I remember several times, and some people even came back to this event because they didn't want to be part of it, and they picked their packages up and just decided. But those that stayed during that time period before he went dark and resurfaced in 2018, by the way, the whole story changed. And I was going to say that's what some somebody who was a member behind the scenes, because that's one of my someone I know, I would say, was defending this individual. And the other person I spoke with that told me that she decided not to come back and told me what events that she attended, said that's not what we signed up for. That's not, and I said, I agree. That's not what was clear. Like, this guy kept changing stuff. He never admits to any fault whatsoever. They come up with every excuse in the world. That's why I felt it was important to warn you guys. And I was going to do a follow-up video down the road to let you all know what I went through. Once again, I want that to never be forgotten. What I went through, and I wanted to be on a record to help protect myself in case anything ever happened to me. You guys would know this is the honest to God truth. My family members, I don't just make up stuff to lie, because I was taught back in college as a young man in my early college years when I used to joke around. There was two older guys I used to hang with, and they were both former military. One of them I know was formerly in the Army. And they say, hey, young blood, they said, we know you just joking around, but they said one thing as a young man you want to learn about, you don't want to do, is you don't want to lie on your dick. That's basically how they told it to me. I hate to be kind of blunt, but that's what they said. So I'm the type of person, I don't just make stuff up. I don't lie on my dick. But that's what they told me. Basically, they explained they were OGs at the time. I was around 19 years old. That's when I was going to college in Ohio. And I was joking, and they kind of schooled me on some advice. This is some good advice from some old OG guys I kind of looked up to at the time, because they were really good with women and stuff like that. Would give, young guys advice. We would hang out, kind of like, watch fights and stuff like that. Do what, young guys do. And that's advice that they gave me. So I want you all to know, I don't just come on here and just make stuff up. Now, I will let you all know, like when I said allegedly, like things we can't confirm, we can't prove, things that have not been independently proven. But from my personal experience, as well as confirmed news reports, articles that have been released, personal testimonies from people that I know, things that I've witnessed, I can't speak on those things. And I can confirm other so-called gurus or people that have hosted conference calls that I have never met formally, that I don't know personally. I can confirm some of the things they went over were accurate. Like, I can confirm Bruce, whether people, what they feel about him, what he said was accurate. I can confirm some of the things that TNT Tony said is highly accurate. Matter of fact, one of the subscribers who reached out to me some years ago, she even told me things, by the way, and I put, it sounds like the information even trickled back to TNT from what I would gather. I don't really listen to his conference calls as much anymore, or when his brother Ray Ren kind of took over, when he was going through the situation he was going through, I was still tune in from time to time. But even I think I put them up on some information dealing with how I knew about brick and mortar institutions that actually physically sold Iraqi dinar, when a lot of people didn't even know. They just thought it was online dealers that sold it. They didn't even know about brick and mortar locations. Now, I can't speak on if those locations still do, because we are getting closer to things happening potentially. I can't say, but you have to do your own due diligence and the areas, and I didn't talk about that much, but the subscriber at the time who reached out to me and I shared this with, she was in the DC area, and we got to talking, and I said, what I suggest, I would look for the brick and mortar shops in your area. In some instances, some coin shops that sell memorabilia, currency, and stuff like that were in the business. And she brought up a particular mall that was like for a lot of government employees that shopped at, because she had a security clearance, or she told me what level security clearance she had, and I suggested, and she told me she did follow up with me, and this is good when I help someone give them input. I'm appreciative if they are able to give me information back if they were successful with the information. And she reached back out to me and said, yes, I picked up some dinar. It was at this particular mall or institution that was really popular amongst the DC area that deals with like exchanging currency or something to that effect. And I said, okay, cool. I was able to help her out based off the advice that I had given her. Now, this is the first time I think I've told that story in more detail. By the way, I won't say her name to protect her identity. It has been a long time, by the way, since I have spoken with her. But this is a real true testimony story. and I was able to help because she had purchased some dinars from somebody else out of state. And I said, it's better if you go through a more authorized like dealer or someone, because I was hearing stories that people were just giving their currency to people to hold it for them, or say they would exchange it and they would go to Reno. And they say it's saying similar to precious metals. If you let somebody else hold it for you, you don't own it. And my friend took me to a preppers meeting years ago, and the guys were saying you want to hold the physical, so you don't want to trust someone to hold something for you. You want to hold that yourself, by the way. But you know, that is for what it is. But I'm just sharing that story. So that's kind of an update. There's some more things, some dates that are coming up in May that I hear things are getting closer. XRP has made a lot of partnerships. There's particular coins, my source was telling me. So the reason not only XRP is going to be part of the new digital banking system, the quantum financial system called QFS, it's an acronym or moniker for quantum financial system. It's going to replace the old legacy system that's going to be phased out, dealing with Swift, and the new system is going to be brought in. So basically, XRP and these certain cryptocurrencies that are called ISO coins, ISO 2022 or something like that, 2022 certification, when the dust settles and they pull the plug whenever they do. This is one thing we don't know. I'm not this close on the inside, but some people might be that far on the inside. When the dust settles and regulations come down, they still have to vote. They want regulations and stuff put in place. Then that's when they're going to allow those coins to rise from the ashes. Now we could potentially see, because we're in one of the greatest bull cycles ever, it's still not too late. And we saw new all-time highs this past March. It was, where people were shocked that for the first time ever, Bitcoin surpassed all-time highs before the halving event, April 19th. You know, the halving, those who all know, who understand that concept, is when there's less supply and circulation, because what makes Bitcoin a valuable asset is its rarity, and that only so many people can own it. And that's why a lot of institutional investors have come in. They now have ETFs and things of that sort. So after the halving, that cuts down on the supply and everything to sum things up. So, you know, when something becomes, there's a less supply of it, then that increases. You have the law of supply and demand. So that demand for something increases, then you see the prices go up. Kind of like if there's like a famous basketball player shoe, like years ago when the gray Michael Jordan shoes came out, there was only so many made in circulation at the time. They intentionally did not make a lot on purpose. So there was a stampede of people at the time. I remember years ago, I was in the mall, including I was one of them, and a lot of people I was were close to getting access, and they shut stores down. There was fights that broke out. People were getting robbed because they only made only so many of these particular gray Michael Jordan shoes. By the way, me and my friends, one of my best friends, will never forget, years ago. By the way, this is an example: law, supply, and demand. By the way, and then as throughout the years, you know, people have gotten older, and then his brand has become more marketable because he's known as one of the greatest, and in my personal opinion, the GOAT, the greatest basketball player that ever lived. My favorite NBA player of all time, my number one on my list, MJ, definitely. And the way his brand has excelled and sustained itself for many years, and even paved the way for other athletes and people to duplicate and be able to do similar things that he has done. The prices have even gone up even higher throughout the years, and when you add in inflation. So that's an example. There's going to be less supply of Bitcoin, so things are getting ready to heat up. From what I hear, I was hearing from the guys I follow that read the charts and stuff, said a short squeeze is coming, but we're in a potential area. Still, there was an accumulation phase where we had a big drop not too long ago. There was a major pullback, and some were worried. I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm bullish on certain meme coins, but you want to be careful, as my source was telling me, and this is with a lot of cryptos. You want to make sure you have a separate supply in the ISO coins. You can look up what the ISO coins are, coins that are backed in the meantime. And I said, I still got to do some things myself But meme coins, I'm bullish on. I saw Pepe went up again not too long ago, even though there was a big pullback. A lot of coins pulled back during the pullback phase when Bitcoin dropped not too long ago. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm bullish on Shiba Inu and Bonk. Bonk is part of Solana's ecosystem. In case you don't know, Shiba is part of Ethereum's ecosystem. One of the things I think Shiba has use case scenario in its particular project because of it. It has a DeFi, decentralized exchange, Shiba Swap. It's got the Bone token, so it's got utility and smart contracts and stuff where they can add liquidity. You can how can I put it? Similar to high yield accounts, they can accrue interest or things of that sort separately from the coin itself. But those are like that deals with the dexes. That's separate from just buying and holding the coin itself. But I'm bullish, similar, just like holding stocks in major corporations. And many of these cryptos have partnered with major corporations. You'd be surprised out there when you look at the ecosystem. That's one of the ways you can tell, like Hedera Hashgraph has a really large ecosystem, major partnerships with major Fortune 500 corporations, corporations around the world. And it's many things happening. I hear Chainlink has some type of partnership with Ripple, and there's some coins that are projects with the people that are behind the developers that are behind these coins that are similar to stocks that are partnered with major corporations are aware, and they're forming partnerships because they don't want their coins when the powers that be decide to destroy a lot of them. They don't want their coins to get destroyed or to fall to the wayside. So they have strategically partnered themselves with some of the ISO partnerships of coins that are going to be part of the new digital banking system, the new digital ledger system, known as the quantum financial system. So that's to kind of give you all an idea of what's going on. It's still unfolding. So I hear the banks have to be QFS compliant by the 25th of this month. And if not, they would be penalized, and they could be absorbed by smaller banks because they had a certain time period. Because some of the banks that said prior last year, we were getting reports that some banks said they were ready to go for this to happen, for the reset to go, but there was still a lot of banks or certain banks that said they weren't ready yet. But now the time has come where they have to be compliant. And if they're not compliant, one of my sources was telling me they could basically get penalized. And the other reason why the ISO coins like XDC is part of the ISO, I think the last time I looked at XDC was like at 3 cents. Last time I looked at Ripple was like 52 cents. I said Ripple XRP should be way higher than where it's at. And my source emphasized it's being suppressed. And he said this comes from a YouTube channel that put this out there called Black Swan Crypto or something like that, had shared info. But I had already known that the powers that be behind the curtain that are controlling this have intentionally been keeping the price of Ripple suppressed because they want to allow institutional buyers and banks to be able to buy it cheap while the getting is good. So my source said they're actually doing you a favor as well. So you want to focus on those coins as well and move them to a cold wallet. You want to get while the getting is good before it's too late, because he said once they decide to flip the switch, it's going to be too late, and they're going to they could shoot up overnight, like we seen what happened with Bitcoin, and people could get priced out where they're like, oh, it's too expensive, I can't afford that. Kind of like silver, the price of the precious metal and the commodities market. Silver has been climbing up. The last time I looked, it was over $28 per ounce. Gold was over $2,300 per ounce. Gold has been breaking records, by the way. So you don't want to get priced out. You want to get in while the getting is good. And my source just reminded me, one of my sources earlier today, that back over a decade ago, in the earlier 2000s, silver was like around $5 an ounce at one time. And look where it's gone all the way. It's at $28 ounce, over 28 per ounce. So you don't want to get priced out. You want to get in while the getting is good. This is a form of your retirement. You want to diversify your portfolio. You don't want to just depend on 401k plans or IRAs, because if there's a major collapse or thing, I was informed with the banking system, you're going to need to depend on you want hard assets or digital assets as well, because those other things, some devastating events could potentially take place. So this is not legal advice. I'm going to get to the comment section. I'm going to read you guys comments, and I'm going to go on and get out of here. See, Mary Saunders says, Shalom, family. Thank you for joining, Mary. Ed Turn in the building says, IOTA is junk. Yeah, IOTA, I don't know too much about. Keisha, oh my, it's been a long time. Keisha in the building, family, says, peace and blessings, Dorsey. Appreciate you, Keisha. Long time no see. Wow, it's been a minute. Mary says, can we change our money for the BRICS money? Question mark. That's a good question. That's also unfolding. I pay attention to Bo Pony as well. Has been giving good information. If you know who Bo Pony is, he has a website, Gold Forecast 2020. He does a lot of interviews. By the way, I go to Rumble and check out some of his interviews. By the way, he could probably help answer that question. But that's part of like what's going on overseas, because they're countries, when they're going to stop using the U.S. dollar, it's going to cause the the dollar to weaken. By the way, because other countries decided not to do business or exchange with the dollar anymore. By the way, Keisha says ISO 20022 contracts. Yeah, interesting. Says Keisha Breland says banks must be Basel 4 and 4A and QFS compliance. Okay, awesome. So that's what it is. Okay, so we're at a level, it's Basel 4 compliance. Okay, wow. See, there's things, just to let you all know, that have been constantly unfolding. By the way, that like I said, this has been a process that's been in the making for years. By the way, Ed Turn says IOTA is garbage. XRP has good tech with the ability to create liquidity, which is missing. Okay, interesting. By the way, says Ed Turn says smart contract solves the problem you're talking about. Yeah, I agree. The problem what's happening there is I hear there's like a political fight between the good cabal and the evil cabal. It appears as though the evil cabal, they want totalitarian control over the entire banking system. They want to install their system that is not decentralized. That'll be centralized. That's where people were complaining when the information came out about the remember, was it last summer, when they were talking about what was that? The CBDC, central bank digital currencies. By the way, so you got a fight going on with the, certain regulators, politicians that are regulators don't want to see certain things happen. Hold on, guys. I'll be back real quick. Okay, I'm back. So what you have going on is you also have, there's certain politicians, by the way, that are connected to the let's say the evil cabal. And the whole concept, when I heard about when cryptos were created, it was Bitcoin was part of the concept. It was created as a tool supposed to be help those to combat what the Federal Reserve Bank was doing and be decentralized. But what's happened is the cabal has come in, by the way, and we know they have a lot of power because of their influence, and they want to mess things up, and they want things to be centralized. So there's a fight, because smart contracts go along the line, which I support. I like smart contracts with decentralization. So I'm all for it. That's part of DeFi. I still have to learn about DeFi. I'm not an expert. I would need to take an actual DeFi class. I know about it, by the way, but I haven't had a lot of time to research it. I know about the MetaMask wallet. I had one at one time. I didn't follow through with, because you have to make sure your security is good nowadays because of a lot of stuff going on. They emphasize you need VPNs, virtual privacy networks, because sometimes the cabal has minions. They have gatekeepers, overseers below them who are trying to sabotage and basically hurt people from obtaining wealth. They don't have our best interest at heart. And I've named some of these people before, and I want to do a video down the road. It's in my plan that will show you the actual faces. Because I've said this for a long time, and you guys, some of you guys have said, Dorsey, when are you going to show the receipts? I'm contemplating on getting my Zoom membership back so you guys will be able to see my face, and then I'll be able to illustrate. I'll be able to use my computer screen like I did in the past and go to different websites and show you. I don't just make this stuff up, actual articles. I'll show you the writings, and you guys will actually see, and you can judge for yourself. But understand, the Illuminati, the ruling class elite, the evil criminal cabal global syndicate is very real, and they're completely evil. They want depopulation. They have a depopulation agenda. They already have something in other countries called a social credit system that is utilized, is combined, where not only with your regular credit score, but they go off your social credit score, and it's set up in a way to track you and monitor like what you're doing on social media. So say, for example, like what's going on kind of already over here, if we don't fight for freedom of speech and rights, we're going to lose everything. But this happens in communist countries that have gone under totalitarian control, totalitarian rule. And this information is important. This is just as important as people in the sovereign movement studying 1099A, trying to get their freedom. It's important to understand who these people are, because they don't have the public's best interest at heart. Trust me when I say this. I know, I've been studying these people for years. They want to implement something called a one world government, and they want to see everyone. They want the chip to be able to track you everywhere you go. When you use in the bathroom, you have no privacy whatsoever. They want all your money, your cash to be on there digitally. It'll be a nightmarish, hellish world. I just heard recently, and don't take my word for what I say. Time, conspiracy is a separate word. Theory is something theoretical. I don't deal with theories. I deal with facts. Okay? Well, things I'll tell you guys if something's alleged. But there's articles where they have written about this. They have admitted, like Yuval Noah Harari has admitted, says we no longer need humans anymore. We have artificial intelligence. Klaus Schwab has a book. He talks about something called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. These are what men are with the World Economic Forum. They're very evil. They have bragged that they have political leaders from around the world on their side, such as Justin Trudeau, Emmanuel Macron, that are deeply embedded, tied in with this evil criminal cabal network, along with William Gates, aka Bill Gates, who does have actual black helicopters and things of that sort, that does very evil things. It's a eugenicist. These people are into eugenics, which is population reduction. So we're dealing with a very cynical, methodical agenda behind the scenes. And this is very real. I don't say or use these fancy words to sound cool, but you need to wake up, like my 7th grade teacher used to say, you need to wake up and smell the coffee. My 7th grade teacher, Mr. Height, used to say years ago, when I went to Evangel Christian Academy, he said, you need to wake up and smell the coffee, because we're not, the world is changing, and we're going to lose everything in America if there's other countries that are depending on us. They actually depend on America, and they depend on the real people who are awake to the truth, who will fight against tyranny, who will stand up against authoritarian regimes, so we don't become like a North Korea or China that still has concentration camps, or like they did the Uyghur community in China, and has vans that takes organs from prisoners and executes them right on the spot, which are major human rights violations. But they try to pretend and lie to the UN that they weren't committing these violations like what happens in North Korea. And that's just to name a couple. That is what communism, socialism does. It's never worked. It's always failed. So understand this, despite what your political leanings may be, the Democratic Liberal Party has been completely taken over. Yes, conservatives are not perfect. I know some people say they're two heads of the same snake, but the difference, I was debating a relative, they have something called the Freedom Caucus. They are, remember, one political party was more so for the vaccine. They're talking about this time around, if they bring in another pandemic, they're trying to make it where you won't have a choice, where they're saying you'll have to take it. Now, does that sound like freedom, America the free, America the beautiful, home of the brave, land of the free? No, the hell it doesn't. So you guys see, I have to say things like this, unfortunately, to bring things home. But I didn't mean to go into a rant, but you know, I get kind of passionate with this stuff. So you guys know what's going on. So I see a lot of comments in here. Whoa. So I'm gonna get to the next comment. Ed Turner says the lawsuit's not over. Okay, that's good intel. I've been hearing allegedly. He said, and that's why it didn't pump during 2000. Jakisha says, XLM. Click on the next comment. Okay, there we go. Keisha says, XLM. Yeah, I know about that. Stellar Lumens. That's another good one to invest in. By the way, I've been bullish. I'm bullish on Stellar as well. That's part of the ISO coin. Crypto Skull says, yeah, what's up, JD? I finally caught a live broadcast. I'm happy to be here. Appreciate it. Well, I'm glad to have you. You made it. I'm sorry I come before you guys sporadically. I've never been able to have a schedule. You guys know I've been still working this bullshit ass job. These people have become more evil nowadays. You guys see there's a lot of human rights violations that are going on out here. Pisses me off. Well, I mean, they've really been, ever since I decided to become a supervisor, I'm almost having thoughts like I should have changed my mind and not taking a position, because man, are they really working me to the bone. Like, I know a lot of other people won't put up with this, but what I've actually done in the meantime, and this is on standby, I've been contemplating. I have a 2-week notice. I went online, I downloaded some templates so I can send a letter, because I want it to be, I'm still honorable at the end of the day, despite what I've been going through with my schedule. It'll seem like it'll be consistent for a while, then they'll just change it all of a sudden. So I can't get my study in, and I'm on a night shift, and then they got me during the mornings through the school throughout the week. So certain days I'm tired, and it's like, what do you guys, my schedule is literally helter-skelter. And I mean, it's got to stop. So I've got to have a talk with them. It's like they having me covered like I'm an unofficial floater. I'm like, where the hell did this come from? These people, you need to hire more fucking people. Excuse my French. I'm ranting, guys, so I don't normally use profanity, but that's what I'm going through. That's what pissed me off, because I would have been on the other side years ago. That's why I'm going to do another video about when I attended the Pastor Tony King seminar and what actually happened, because there's people that still don't believe me, despite me showing the black card, the documents I had, people I never met that I wouldn't have never known throughout the years that reached out to me, etc., if I was just making that up. But hey, like I said, I want people to know what really happened. That's my story. And I'm going to go over that again sometime. Because I know from time to time, he has moles that still come over here, people that still troll me. And I'm going to say, if you don't like the content that I talk about, I'm not going to remove it. It's going to stay up. It's public. Because I decided not to come back, because they were the ones that violated the non-disclosure agreement by keeping my original package, by not returning it as he promised, that had my thumb drive in there, that had my social security card, my birth certificate, my depository trust clearing corporation eligibility questionnaire form, my wizard payment against acceptance, my other wizard form, and my QSIP form. Promised it was going to be returned. Still don't know where the hell it's at. Even though then he puts the blame and says some other guy named Gary Colombo has it. So I don't know, how the hell am I supposed to know who to believe? But one thing I know I could have, which some people I heard did, file complaints with the FBI. And I forgot about this. Somebody I heard allegedly even contacted Homeland Security. And as I've been studying this Diddy situation, I found out something interesting about Homeland Security. I found out they have a higher jurisdiction than the FBI. So some of the people that may have reported voter fraud back in 2020, they may have should have gone and reported the crimes to Homeland Security, because I hear they have a higher form of jurisdiction. But the problem is that if you still have cabal people that are in key positions of power, prosecutors and stuff, sometimes it's hard to get things to move forward. If they're hardcore Democrats, they're practicing lawfare and just going after one side. They're not being, as they're told in their rule books and the whole law bar association, that justice is supposed to be fair, and injustice for one and injustice for all, whether you're Democrat or Republican. So they're using the Democratic Liberal Progressive Party to bring in communism. That's what's going on. That's why if I was a registered voter, which I canceled it in 2004, it would be an easy choice. I would have voted for Trump in a heartbeat. It would be very easy for me to make. And I admired Brandon Straka's walkaway movement. Well, I told the story. I used to be a Democrat, even though technically I'm not a registered voter, so I don't belong to any political party. But I can see from the outside looking in. I use critical thinking. I have the ability to see how certain people are being targeted. There's political bias, people, and this is unprecedented, that this is forms of socialism and communism happening in America today, coming from the progressive Democratic Liberal Party, who claims to be about love and inclusivity. Bullshit. Straight up bull. You're not about love. It's not inclusivity. You have this so-called LGS alphabet community that claims it preaches tolerance, but are intolerant themselves. By the way, you can get me going, but it's an overlay for the underlay. But that's what the powers that be, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, Yuval Noah Harari, who's personal advisor, they're behind, connected to the Bilderberg meeting. They are the actual Illuminati, the globalists. Okay, at a very high level. They're not just the gatekeepers, because people were trying to accuse certain music artists and things of being part of the Illuminati, and people were emphasizing those people are at a lower level. It's people behind the curtain that control the music industry that would be even higher than them behind the scenes, like Clive Davis, Jerry Heller, by the way, who Rick Rubin behind Def Jam years ago. Look up who Rick Rubin is, by the way. Ron Burkle, as we're finding out. Those are the real gatekeepers. The lower level people are just the overseers. Like you had during slavery times, they were the house Negroes. The house Negroes, generally the light skin, where the slave master slept with the black slave and he produced mixed children. They would come out fair skin or light skin complexion, and they would get awarded the great privileges. They were the house Negroes. So the people like the Jay-Z's of the world or the Beyoncé's, they're the overseers. They're not part of the Illuminati. Now you can say in some instances, like 50 Cent said in the interview, when you make it to a certain level, aka Curtis Jackson said, when you get to a certain point, they expect certain things of you. When you get in that entertainment industry and you reach a certain level in the entertainment, they expect these things. But you got to look at the people behind the curtain that are much higher than that, like, or the guy Kanye called out behind the scenes that he accused of having him blacklisted, some guy named Ari Emanuel that I never heard of, named Ari Emanuel. I don't know who Ari Emanuel is, but I said, oh, he's a real gatekeeper. See, that's the difference. You guys got to understand, you got to do your research and stop just going off of blogs off the internet. And there's books and stuff that tell you about the bloodline families and who the real Illuminati are, by the way. That's based off credible research. Do your own research, because I did give a disclaimer. So you can treat this as hearsay, but I did give a disclaimer earlier, but one must do their own homework and research, and then you'll see the conclusions what I've come to. Let me see. So we'll get to the next comment. Ed Turner says, I've been hearing this since 2017. I believe it when I see it. Okay, I feel you. Says, and if the corner financial system is real, you must mean quantum. Watch it not be XRP. Ed Turner says, Pepe Coin and base AI is going to be the killers this bull run. Yeah, for whatever reason, the meme coins, they have been doing really well. I saw Pepe was volatile. I saw Pepe went up to like 0.99 because they still like less than $1. But when we had the major pullback, I did see it had a pullback. Let me see that other flow key I was bullish on. Bonk went up significantly not too long ago. Bonk had a significant recovery. I don't know too much about Dog with half coin, and then I heard about people making a lot of money through Twitter with these new projects like the other meme coin. I forget, Book of Meme, that was like based off of Solana's ecosystem. That people did some type of project fundraiser or something through Twitter, and people became millionaires overnight. I don't know how the hell that DeFi is a whole other animal within itself. Because I met someone recently and they told me about these apps. One of them was Solaire or something, and that's why I said I would have to take a class on. I don't know how some of these guys knew about DeFi. It's a whole nother beast within itself. So respect to the guys, because I do follow a lot of different channels. The guys that know how to read the charts, that can like kind of predict, or good, that have good analysis. I just discovered someone recently who predicted that Bitcoin would hit its all-time high before the halving, and he mentioned when he had one of the few out there, or only ones, who predicted this and said the bull cycle is going to end before 2025. He says, be careful. And I said, I thought about something like that, because they were making it seem like the last bull cycle we were in 2021, before we had the big drop going into 2022, that we were going to go up. And that drop was devastating. Well, he says after around September, October of this year, it's going to have its top. Once it reaches this all-time high, then it's going to start to go into a bearish divergence, I think. And he said those drops could be significant. Not saying you're going to have, still at times, even in a bear market, you can have, just like we had recently, like a temporary bear market where there was a major pullback or correction. The same thing in a bear market. But he said towards after around September, October of this year, he said that you're going to see the top, but you're going to have to be careful going into 2025. Well, I don't know. Maybe different people have different opinions that can read the chart. And one of my sources is saying you're going to have about a year left before, by 2025, that's when things, they're going to plan on changing things significantly, where it's not going to be the same way anymore. So just be on the lookout. I would say I got to get it right this time. Jojo Wave says, peace, Dorsey. Crypto Skull says, ISO 20022. Yes, you're correct. Jojo Wave says, Bitcoin only. Everything else is a distraction. Got you. Says Jojo Wave says the IQD is absolutely useless. Okay, I got you. Jojo Wave says meme coins equal low intelligence. Focus on Bitcoin only, man. Yeah, I understand you got some people out here who are Bitcoin maxis, by the way, but those of us who are late in the game, I know what the people that are into Bitcoin are trying to do. See, the market is so stagnated that you had like your loyalists, just like your people that are in your favorite sports teams. So it's like people that have their favorite teams are trying to get other people to like their teams, to kind of give you guys. But Bitcoin is so high, people are already priced out. So you're going to see the gains. There's risk involved, with high reward. There becomes high risk with altcoins that have smaller market caps. When it's the certain type of coins to invest in, the key is to buy low and sell back high. If you get that concept, but that's why it was important to be buying, accumulating during the bear market we had a year and a half ago, and you would be up in your position significantly. I know in some coins, certain coins, I'm up significantly. So that's where the gains are going to come, by the way. But yeah, kudos to those who got in Bitcoin early, even Ethereum. Had I known, oh boy, if I could go back, Ethereum, Solana. Oh, I remember when Solana was cheap, and I used to look at Solana on my Exodus wallet. I used to say, I wonder what a Solana was cheap. I had no idea about researching. And what do you know now that might be an ETH killer, some call. So you never know. I'm not one of those Bitcoin maxis. Keisha says DeFi is decentralized finance. Yes, you're correct. Keisha says true indeed. Keisha said Endeavor controls the media. Oh, wow, interesting. Keisha says Timecoin is the truth. Okay, I don't know about Timecoin. By the way, Crypto Skull says, hey, AD Tune, get your own channel. None of you are here to listen to you stoke your ego. Yeah, see, guys, I don't get into that beefing stuff. I'm just here to present the information. This video was supposed to be related to kind of give you guys an idea because this new banking system is tied in because my source told me the banks are moving over to blockchain, by the way, which is digital ledger system. I hear England is already using the XRPL, uh, uh, what do you call it, Ripple's new ledger system. So they're moving to a new digital system. Your send and your receive keys are similar to your how can I put it from banking terminology. It's your send and receive key, like your send key is considered your private keys in crypto. So you want to look into getting a cold storage wallet, but it's similar to in the banking system how you have your withdrawal and deposit, how you can make withdrawals and deposit from your account. So think about your withdrawal and your deposit from your regular bank account. Compare it with your send and receive key. But there's videos on there, tutorials and stuff to provide the right financial education for you guys. I don't have a video like that yet, but I can at least direct you guys to do your own homework, do your own research, your own due diligence. I did give a disclaimer. This is not financial securities legal advice. It's encouraged, once again, you do your own homework. And they do have tutorial videos on YouTube, maybe even Rumble, because I encourage you guys, get on other platforms as well. Support the independent media, by the way. So the corporate establishment media doesn't have a monopoly that can just constantly lie to you. And use free thinking, critical thinking. Don't trust the mainstream media. Always check with the independent media. That's why people like to check TikTok with independent bloggers and journalists and see what our opinions are. Average everyday people that are boots on the ground, that are not we're not reading teleprompters like your local news people do, or they report, they go against the grain, they're immediately fired. And see, they're happy because they're making real good money and stuff, working for ABC. That's why they're happy all the time, like Al Roker, they're the magic Negro. They're happy because they're making real good money. But I'm someone that's out in the field. I was censored by YouTube. I'm not paid by George Soros. So that means I'm in the trenches. I'm 10 toes deep. So I'm getting it out the mud, baby. So it feels good. But support the independent media. Go to Rumble. Check out Ban.video. I was going to tell you guys the story. Germany, I hear it allegedly banned private car ownership on the weekends for all their citizens. And I hear the World Economic Forum, they want this worldwide. So Alex Jones was explaining, by the way, in this particular video. It was a short video, but very informative. And this is all tied in with that climate change bullshit that they're coming up with to create something called a carbon tax and replace currency altogether and have something called carbon credits where they charge you for the air that you breathe, charge you. You see, they're already charging us for water. Water used to be free at one time. I forgot years ago, people didn't have water bills, by the way. But you have these boule and gatekeeper type people will tell you, well, they need to service and maintain the city. So the money that you pay to the water company goes to maintain the sewage and stuff like. I'm like, okay, but still at the same time, well, why, in certain areas water was plentiful, it was free at one time, and you're charged for it all of a sudden. In certain states and places have regulations where you can't create your own filtration devices to pull water when it rains and stuff like that. Why are they against, or solar panels and things against you having it privately? Because see, they want you dependent on some type of energy utility company. So that's another trick you got to watch. Stop trusting the mainstream media and check out the independent media. Go to Ban.video, by the way. That's where you get the real good information. Keisha says CBDC is about to go live. Okay, very interesting. That stands for Central Bank Digital Currency. Keisha says the RV started a few days ago. Okay, wow. I wouldn't be surprised. That's good intel to have. Well, I'm glad to catch you, Keisha. You've been a blessing. I do remember speaking to you some years ago through Skype. Had a very high-power conversation, by the way, and appreciate your skill set that you bring to the table and what you're sharing. And I looked up your credentials. You razor sharp, and I wouldn't mind connecting with you sometime again down the road. So I'm gonna get ready to get out of here. You all, appreciate you all joining. Legends never die. The marathon will continue. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Peace.